Hello, and I wanted to welcome you to the Body Code workshop. So today we're going to discuss how does the emotion code and body code actually work. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle, and the big thing is I want to ask, how did you end up here? So you may have been like me, where you were looking at all different types of modalities and you were continuously looking for answers and not really getting anywhere. And you started to question, like, what's going on? How come I can't seem to find the answers? And I really am super grateful that you found me and that you're here, because this means that you didn't give up and that you're still looking. You're still looking for answers. And this is exactly what happened to me. And this is why I do what I do, because I know what it's like to struggle and I know what it's like to try to find answers and not really get anywhere, and just really have that kind of inner feeling or that inner nagging that, like, there's something else going on here. Like, I need to keep looking. There must be an underlying reason why this is going on. So perhaps this is why you're here, is you've tried so many different things and you're still not happy or not satisfied with where you're at, and you wanted to look a little bit deeper. You wanted to inquire deeper into yourself and into the answers. So I have been a chiropractor for over 16 years. I've worked with I've done about 85,000 client sessions in my time in various forms. So that's within, traditional chiropractic, cranial type therapy, Reiki sessions. I've done a lot of applied kinesiology and muscle testing. So this really has been my passion. I've been a full-time chiropractor for that 16 years. And in the last 2 years, I've been more so focusing on doing this type of work to help people to move forward in new ways and to really help them gain a lot more clarity. And that's really what I continue to search for and I continue to deepen, is always looking for the cause of the issue. And I really feel like this has been my calling in life, and this is what I've, really spent my life doing, and this is what I've really dedicated myself to. So we're going to go over the basics of, like, how does body code work? How does emotion code work? And the biggest thing we need to understand is we need to understand energy, and that every single thing is energy. Some of it is in like a slower or more dense form, which is the physical form. Some of it is completely invisible. So the thing to realize is that we as people are pure energy. We're just composed of this pure energy. So this is an invisible energy, which is our body or our spirit. This is also called ki, chi, or prana in different practices. The physical body is essentially the energy in the form of matter, but it is still a type of energy. So then really the question is, what are emotions? So emotions are a complex experience of consciousness, bodily sensation, and behavior that reflects personal significance of a thing, an event, or a state of affairs. So that's the Britannica definition of emotion. It can be very useful. It can make life colorful. It can also act as sometimes a guidepost for us to know if we're kind of going in a direction that works for us or doesn't work for us, or maybe if boundaries are crossed, we will feel different emotions. So emotions are helpful for us. They're kind of like a way to signal us about things that are happening in our experience and in our body and in our energy. So emotions are just another form of pure vibrating energy. So also in traditional Chinese medicine, there is a lot of philosophical basis around that our organs and glands can actually generate specific emotions. For example, when the liver is very stagnated, sometimes this can generate the emotion of anger or frustration. And we can see this when we see people who maybe have issues with their liver, they have liver cirrhosis or those types of problems, they will tend to be a little bit more angry. So sometimes our emotions can get out of balance, our organs can get out of balance and create or generate these specific emotions, which are just a vibrating energy. So how do these emotions get trapped? So they can get stuck in the body, and that's also called trapped emotions. And emotions that stay trapped long enough can actually become an emotional baggage. So we can start to carry a lot of emotional baggage if we have a lot of this trapped energy that really hasn't been released yet. And that's the whole purpose of the emotion code and body code, is to help to release the emotional baggage. This is what I kind of think of in the diagram when we see that, we are just a pure energy form, is that I often give people the analogy that we're this pure light energy form. And what happens is we go through life, we have different experiences. Sometimes we take on the fears or the belief systems of other people. Sometimes we experience fears or traumas, and it's like that bright, beautiful, vibrating energy body starts to get covered with mud. And this is what the emotion code and body code does. It doesn't change you, you don't become a different person, but it helps to remove the mud off of that beautiful, luminescent energy body so that you can actually be your best self. So this is a bit of a double-edged sword, because trapped emotions affect us emotionally, they affect us physically, so they can actually change the way that our physical body works. They can even change the way that we physically, hold our posture, move, walk, all of these kinds of things. And they can cause problems immediately when they become trapped, or even decades later. And often people will ask me this during sessions, is they'll say, oh, do you mean, did this just happen? Or did I just recently notice this emotion? Or did this event just occur like recently? And it can be from any time in our lives that we can have trapped energy or trapped emotions. So a trapped emotion is essentially a ball of vibrating energy, and it's kind of the size of an orange or a cantaloupe. And most people do have hundreds of trapped emotions. So trapped emotions cause problems. So again, they cause imbalances in your energy field, which can create symptoms. And those symptoms can be emotional or physical. And that's always something to remember too, is that sometimes we just think of symptoms as physical, like, oh, my knee hurts, or I have a headache, but there can also be emotional symptoms. So maybe we're really triggered very easily, or we're very upset or very angry. So those trapped emotions can cause any types of imbalances, both physical and emotional. If these emotions and this energy stays trapped long enough, it can actually morph into and become disease. So this imbalance, it's essentially looking for an imbalance before it becomes a problem is always the best option, obviously. So, and we can, and again, even if you already do have an issue that has manifested into a specific disease, we can also ask, what is the underlying cause of this problem, and remove those blockages. So types of physical problems that the emotion code and body code can help with, or that trapped emotions can cause, or trapped energy can cause, is aging issues, allergies, lung issues, autoimmune issues, back issues, blood sugar imbalances, chest discomfort, chronic illness, fatigue, digestive issues, head discomfort, impotency, infertility, joint discomfort, lowered immunity, neck discomfort, nerve discomfort, any sort of organ or gland issues or imbalances, sinus issues, and even weight issues. And also, how can trapped emotions or trapped energy affect us mentally or emotionally? This can go into like addiction, even a lot of anger or anxiousness, attention problems, sadness, or eating disorders, even creating issues with fighting or intimacy, even a lack of love. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we discuss the heart wall. Learning disabilities, loneliness, low self-esteem, mental illness, money problems, nightmares, paranoia, phobias, even trauma, self-sabotage, sleep issues, stress, suicidal thoughts. So any trapped emotion can cause any source of these many different things. And trapped emotions can, again, be from any time in life, any time within your lifetime, and some are even inherited. So sometimes we have ancestors who went through some really terrible or difficult situations, and we can actually inherit those traumas or trapped emotions down through the genetic line. So how do we turn this around? And this is the thing, is the more trapped emotions you have or trapped energy you have, the more you'll create. So the biggest thing to do to turn them around is to release these trapped emotions. So this is what this work does, is it finds and releases the trapped emotions and trapped energy. And we find and remove them together using the emotion code and body code. This is an example of a client that I worked with who had a very physical problem or physical manifestation of this trapped emotion and trapped energy. So she writes, after dealing with a frozen shoulder for almost 2 years, I knew my issue was not just physical. And she had seen multiple practitioners for receiving physical care. So she had seen 3 or 4 chiropractors, I believe, at that point. She had physiotherapy. She had different types of modalities, I believe, IMS and even shockwave. So she was doing a lot of physical work to try to get the shoulder better, but it just wasn't improving. And that's always a sign too, is that if we're doing everything we can to physically support our body, but things are still not changing, we have to look deeper. We have to think, is there something else that's creating a blockage here? So she knew her issue was not just physical because it really wasn't changing with all of the physical modalities she was doing. So I did an emotion code and body code clearing exercise, which was a series of questions. And she says, I didn't even have to verbally answer. And that's also something that I would like to point out as well, is that some people are really uncomfortable doing this type of work because there's maybe a bit of fear or apprehension around like, geez, what's going to come up? What's going to come up out of my subconscious? And the big thing is that I want to reiterate and reassure you that you don't need to talk about any of it. And that's the beautiful thing about this work, is that there is the muscle testing will communicate with the subconscious mind, and then it's just released. There doesn't need to be a big discussion about it in order to make it better. We just need to find it, acknowledge it, and then release it. So she says, then she asked me to lift my arm over my head, and for the first time in 2 years, I could. And this was an amazing experience for me to see this transformation, which was so obvious and so easy to, physically see, because sometimes when we're working with things that are maybe mental or emotional in nature, it's a little bit more difficult to see like an exact before and after. But this was like amazing because she literally couldn't lift her arm. And then we did the clearing session and boom, she was able to lift her arm over her head. And it was just like super, super incredible. She was really blown away, and really so was I. I mean, it was just an amazing thing to see and to witness. So we need to expose those trapped emotions by asking the right questions. And that's what I did through this training and certification, is learning how to ask the right questions and to look in the right place. So this is a representation of the conscious mind. So the conscious mind is very limited. These are all the things that we can recollect, things that we can, bring forth and really remember. It's very, very limited. It's only approximately 1% of our total intelligence, and it receives input, analyzes, and decides. So this is like when we're in the mind, we're making decisions. We're just like using facts. We're just deciding. The subconscious mind is the part of the iceberg that's kind of under the water. This is 99% of your intelligence. So everything is stored, every interaction, every person you've ever met, every color you've ever seen. I mean, geez, even think of, the day that you just had, every license plate you saw, every sign, every single thing is somewhere stored in that subconscious mind. It remembers and archives every single thing, every single experience. And it actually knows what's wrong with us, and it knows what we need to correct it. So that essentially, like the subconscious mind is like a lie detector, and it knows the difference between yes and no, truth and lies. And that's what the muscle testing tells us. That's what the use of the applied kinesiology and all of the training I've done is that's what it helps to detect what is the truth and what is not true. So muscle testing can access all of this info that is stored in our subconscious mind. So how do we release it? Once we find it, how do we let it go? An exposed trapped emotion can be released with energy, which is the intention. The intention, we're going to let this particular trapped emotion or energy go. With physics, using magnets. And thirdly, with science, which is the acupuncture system, also known as the governing meridian, which is the primary meridian in the body. So we use these three things to actually help to release the trapped emotions and the trapped energy. So this is the thing, is that once we release that trapped emotion and trapped energy, it is just like, boom, it's a rocket ship. It is ready, set, go. It begins automatically and it begins instantly in that moment during that session. This will continue for 1 to 3 days after the session, and that's known as processing or integration. So basically, it's released, and then your body is learning, your body and your energy system is learning kind of a new way of being. It's learning to be in a new frequency. So next we're going to talk about the heart, and the heart is very fragile. It's kind of known now that they're doing more research. It's kind of like the second brain, and it is actually the core of our being. This is why heartbreak is very, very dangerous. And what can happen with some people is that they will build, well, it's a very high percentage. It's a very, very high percentage. Most people go through difficult or challenging times, maybe feelings of rejection or abandonment or betrayal. And what can happen is we can build a heart wall. So a heart wall is basically it's layers of trapped emotions, and it kind of builds like this protective bomb shelter. And this is a good short-term solution. It's kind of a temporary protection, but it's definitely not a permanent solution, because that wall or that barrier prevents us from giving and receiving love. And you can see this is a beautiful diagram because it really shows the essence of the heart wall. So you can see here, this lady, she at the center of her being is her heart, but then there's all of these layers of different trapped emotions, fear, anger, depression, overwhelm, sadness, that's kind of like creating this barrier for her of protection around her heart. So essentially, when she's sending love to someone, it's going through this barrier and it's essentially tainting the message. So it's kind of like trying to send a radio wave or a frequency or a sound through like a brick wall. It's like by the time it reaches the recipient, it's kind of like crackly and it's not, you can't really make it out. It's really distorted. And that's what happens with a heart wall. So those love messages get tainted. It really hurts and inhibits relationships and can even create isolation. Also, the heart wall isn't just about giving and receiving love in a pure way, because if we're receiving love through a heart wall, it also will feel tainted. But it's also about how we are able to receive from universal energy and how we're able to create self-love and have self-love. It also interferes with that, and it really can block our creativity and even our success. So here is an awesome testimonial from a client. I actually didn't receive this testimonial until almost like 2 years after we had worked together. And it was really, really great, because sometimes you work with clients and you're not really sure, like, hey, did that, how did that land for that person, and what changed and what did they notice? So she sent this email, which was amazing, and I was super happy to receive it. And she says, I wanted to let you know that shortly after you helped me clear my heart wall, I felt super amazing and met my now husband 2 weeks later. After these emotion and body code sessions, him and I were extremely drawn to each other, and it's been a beautiful union in the making. It's wildly in alignment, and we are all better for it. Thank you so much for following your calling and helping me to open up to a higher vibration. And this is Laura Morton. She's a registered massage therapist here in Edmonton, Alberta. So that was a very cool testimonial to receive, because it just showed like such, so much about the power of releasing the heart wall and our ability to connect clearly with other people. This is another testimonial from a client. So we did some body code and emotion code sessions with her. She was very much struggling with like a lot of issues postpartum. She was having some postpartum depression and some anxiety and things like that. So this is the testimonial that she wrote. So as a first-time mom amidst the pandemic, I was at an exhausted loss of what to try next for both myself and my daughter. I'd spent years prior healing, but something was still amiss. Turns out Michelle knew exactly what to do. I felt less physical and emotional pain in my body than ever before in my life. I felt lighter, more at ease, and things that normally would have triggered me in the past rolled right off me. The lesson that even if we do the work, sometimes we may need some assistance to release what's deep within us. I cannot recommend Michelle's services enough. So this was a very cool experience as well, is that her mother had come in to see me and she just said, I really need you to work with my daughter and my granddaughter because like they've just been having a lot of trauma and a lot of issues. Since the delivery, there was a lot of things that had happened during the delivery that were very, very difficult for the mother. So it was just like a very, very interesting and cool experience. And so I was, again, very grateful to be able to assist in this process. This is so important as well. Don't forget your kids. So trapped emotions can negatively interfere with your children's like ability to learn, to be able to regulate their emotions, to live a full, healthy, and happy life. So obviously, any of you who have done much, spiritual or mental emotional work on yourself, you realize that there are a lot of things that happen in childhood that are really difficult. And so this is the thing I want to give you today, is to realize that we can help kids release these things while they're still kids, so that they're not growing up with these trapped emotions and these patterns and these, troubling situations into adulthood and then trying to fix it later on after it's been there for years and years. So don't forget to have your children check today, right? So if they have some behaviors, or maybe you and a child in your household have a lot of friction, or you have a lot of difficulty, or there's things that, you're just finding that are very, very challenging for your child, or even challenging between you and your child, please remember that this works amazing on children and it works great for them. And once kids have this type of work done, they ask for it. They literally, I have a lot of little children patients who are like, I really want to release my trapped emotions. Will you help me release my trapped emotions? And they love it. Like they have less inhibition and they have less fear around these types of things. And so they just like are naturally intuitively in tune. And they're just like, no, I know this helps me and I want to let it go. So don't forget to have your kids checked. So you can be free too. This is the biggest message, is that using this type of work and modality helps us to release things permanently. And it's easy and it's just like, painless. And that's one of the things that Laura Morton, one of the patients who had written a testimonial, who had her heart wall cleared, she just said, it's just so easy. Like, this is just so easy. It's simple. It's painless. I'm not having to like suffer through all these negative emotions. It's just very, very easy. And that's the biggest thing I want to reiterate to you, is that you can start experiencing your best life now. And I would love to help you. I'm here as your guide, your assistant. I'm just here kind of as the liaison or the communicator. And I just do the muscle testing and really remove the things that are in the way so that you can be your best self. So that's the message. Let's remove trapped emotions and energy so you can find better health and happiness. This is another testimonial from a client who was really struggling with grief. So she says, I have to say, I'm not sure how the emotion and body code works, but I know that it does. I was struggling with feeling sad and overwhelmed after the death of someone in my family. I found after each session, I progressively started to feel better and more like my old self. The memories that used to make me feel upset and down still come up, but now they pass without causing me distress. I'm grateful that I feel so much better, and I'm not sure where I would have ended up had I not received Michelle's help. So this emotional release can help with all kinds of things: physical, mental, emotional patterns, anything that you feel is stuck. We can communicate with the subconscious mind, ask about it, and release it. And that's the big thing. We identify and release the emotional baggage. That helps you to better discover kind of your ideal vision for your life. And we're going to make a plan to improve things quickly. So it's time to start living your best life now. And I really look forward to helping you along your journey. This is absolutely my passion, my love. This is like my calling. And I am so grateful that you are here. And I so look forward to assisting you.